Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and it's just the girls tonight. We do have a fella dropping by, but no, Chris, no Huggy tonight, and it's just Coy Malone, social justice activist to the rescue. Do 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 do, and I think that's the same noise your chair was making, and yours
Yeah.
truly. How you
hmm
doing, Coy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Sybil?
I am doing okay, doing okay. Happy President's Day. I know. For some folks, it was a day off. For most of us, it was not. And lucky you if you did have the day off. Did you have the day off?
I did have the day off, but I
You
made it very,
did.
very productive. Yes, made it very
Okay.
productive. hmm
Okay. How productive was that? Because I mean, you're a woman with a gazillion jobs. So what does that look like on your day off?
Today I made sure not to take gazillion and one jobs
Okay.
and
Okay.
made my job be myself, my home, which was really doing the things I never get a chance to do when I'm working. You would be surprised, like things like laundry.
Oh,
um
I understand. I get that. Like, were you able to sleep in? Is that what a day off looks like to
Dishes. Well, not really, no, because I still got up at my normal, 5 a.m. time this morning, 4 or 5 a.m. But I made it very productive, just moving things around, getting my space in order, cleaning up, trying to decorate, really focusing on myself, doing the things I never get a chance to do. And it's amazing how a lot of people say, well, it's good that you're focused at work and it's good to have a career and that you're so good at so many different things, but it can also be stressful because sometimes home is just a place I literally just see for the time that I'm
do?
going to sleep and waking up, and that's it. It's not always like an enjoyable environment. So today I spent time trying to make it an enjoyable environment, trying to change the energy in here. And I'm glad I took the time to do that today.
That's awesome. Good for you. Taking time for yourself. That's important and
hmm
very important for somebody who does have a gazillion jobs. And you yourself should be job one, as they say. So good for
Yeah.
you for doing that.
And I haven't done
Um,
that in so long too. Oh goodness.
you can't remember the last time you did, I bet.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Coy and I are going to be talking about the What You Need to Know newsletter today, as well as talking about it's CIAA time. It is post
Woo!
basketball season time, and it's an exciting time. We're going there this week to participate in some of the events, and we're going to be talking with a gentleman who is affiliated with the CIAA and find out more information and all of the activities for folks that are listening on this Monday. All the activities get underway tonight, and so there's a sense of excitement. And we will talk to Julius Grant III in just a few minutes. Coy, let's talk about the What You Need to Know newsletter. Coy is our social justice activist, and she is one who takes a great deal of pride and skill in her work and has a lot of skill in presenting stories about acts of civil injustice and social injustice in our country. And I've said this once and I'll say it again and again. I worry about her because the stories are so sometimes so very sad, and the way that they end up obviously is not the way you want to see our people, what happens to our people in
Mm-mm.
terms of not surviving. But Coy has the story about a most resilient man and who fought the system with his truth and finally is reaping some benefit, maybe not all that he deserves, but some benefit from holding on and maintaining his truth. Tell us the story, Coy.
Okay, so we're talking about Ralph Blaine Smith, a 49-year-old black man that was wrongfully imprisoned for almost 21 years in the state of Ohio. And what happened was he was a Columbus, Ohio resident that was sentenced to 67 years in prison in the year 2000. And this was after being accused of an armed robbery in a city called Lancaster. Now, what happened was there was a family that claimed that he and another black man broke into their home, forced them to open up a basement safe that had valuable items, and they ended up stealing rare comic books, jewelry, and about $10,000 in cash. Here's the kicker: there was no evidence linking Mr. Smith to the crime, And in fact, there was no evidence of a crime at all. There was no footprints in the snow, even though it had just snowed
Mm-hmm.
in the area. And I think the neighbors were saying something about there was a dog barking next door when they pulled up, and the neighbor said they hadn't heard a dog bark in the last hour. So what happened was Smith filed for a motion for a new trial and argued that his first attorney didn't receive any of the evidence that proved his innocence. And this was in 2020 when he contacted defense attorney Joseph Landusky, who helped him with the retrial of his case. And so they also pointed out in the motion that the police report said that there were numerous observations expressing skepticism about whether a crime had occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening in 2021, Fairfield County prosecutor Kyle Witt declined to pursue a new trial and dropped all charges against Smith. And about a year or so later, after he was released from prison, he settled with the state of Ohio for a wrongful imprisonment claim and won a $1.3 million settlement.
So I kind of threw this on Coy because in my mind this was a story of which was a lighter story in terms of somebody getting some justice. 1.3 million doesn't seem like that to me. This is in tomorrow's newsletter to give people a look at what's happening, and this is what was on top of mind because I was just reading through the edits of the newsletter. So I apologize for throwing that at you, but it doesn't seem like a lot of money for the amount of time that this man has been unjustly imprisoned. And you think about it, but a lot of states are recognizing their wrongs and they are making adjustments to the law so that no matter what the wrongs that have been done, there's a cap on the amount of money. Is that this case, or is it just kind of an arbitrary number that someone decided? Do you
I'm
know?
not sure of the cap that exists in Ohio. I know that there are different caps in different states in terms of wrongful imprisonment, settlements, lawsuits, and what have you. This just leads me to believe, because of the fact that it is a settlement and it didn't go through court, that their cap is actually a lot higher in
Mm-hmm.
Ohio. But needless to say, he did receive some form of justice at the same time, spending 21 years in prison for a crime that never happened. It's absurd. There was
That
no
is
evidence,
so
absolutely none.
bizarre. And I'm glad that there was someone there to defend him and to at least make something happen, but it just doesn't seem right. And maybe it's just me, but I, I don't want people to run my money and tell me how to spend my money. And I guess the state or the city or the county decided, we got this, and so we don't need your input on this either.
This is groundbreaking for Ohio. I do know of someone now that is in prison that has been incorrectly charged and has
Hmm.
been fighting a case for several years. So stories like this coming out of Ohio, and just stories in general of people that are proving their innocence in wrongful imprisonment, is very hopeful for those that are still wrongfully imprisoned, that are still fighting for their own cases and proving
Yeah.
their innocence.
Jeez Louise. I know that there are organizations that will help, and Brian Stevenson, is has led the way on a number of those organizations and getting people to have their sentences expunged, to have them released from prison and their records expunged. But I wish there was some sort of level, an overall level, not just based upon the state and whatever decision. Because when you think about it, I wonder, here's the other part of my wondering. Um, do they have so little regard for this man's life and what he would have been able to make, that that's how they made the decision? And if someone knows that, I just can kind of educate us on that. It's sort of like uh, when you have a death, and people are paid for the life, or the kind of life they could have led. Sometimes Damian Hamilton says the question is, will they go after the folks who filed a false report? And I'm wondering, and that was my other question too, Damien. Thank you. And also, is there a limit on that? Is there a time limit to file against the people who filed the false report?
Right. I thought there was that is an actual crime for filing false claims against someone that
That's a
gets
lot.
them
I
in
mean,
trouble.
that's
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 legally
lying.
right. I mean, I don't know the term of that. I forget the terminology for that type of crime, but I mean, it's punishable by law.
Yeah, it should be. It absolutely should be. And those police that went around, trying to call themselves solving a crime, and wrongfully bringing in these people, they should also be a part of this suit. So Coy, maybe I was moving away from this story that you did for this particular issue of the What You Need to Know newsletter, but Mississippi deputies are under fire for torturing Black men during a drug raid and essentially waterboarding them. This is something that we hear about during wartime, but they did this to these men, and one of the men is fighting back.
Oh goodness, this story is still developing. We're finding out more and more details. At the time when I wrote this story, what we found out is two Black men, 32-year-old Michael Corey Jenkins and 35-year-old Eddie Terrell Parker, were arrested during a drug raid on January 24th in Braxton, Mississippi. Now, according to their civil rights attorney, Malik Shabazz, there were 6 white deputies that raided the home without warning or warrants. They forced their way in, they subdued and handcuffed the men, and after that was a 90-minute intimidation and torture session, which included the deputies repeatedly punching, kicking, and shocking them with tasers before waterboarding them. Racial slurs were used, and then the deputies pointed guns at their heads, threatened to kill them. At one point in time, after being waterboarded with milk, alcohol, whatever they could find in the house, they put a gun in one of the young man's mouth. That would be 32-year-old Michael Corey Jenkins. Put a gun in his mouth and actually pulled the trigger. So he was shot in the face, and the bullet went in his mouth and out of his ear. The only reason why he survived is because he had life-saving surgeries that repaired ruptured arteries. And according to his mother, his jaw was shattered and it had to be wired shut. So now he's fighting back. I believe there is a lawsuit that is in play. There is an investigation going on through the FBI that has announced a federal civil rights investigation into the Rankin County Sheriff's Deputy's Office.
In
This is a developing
Mississippi.
story in Mississippi. A developing story is going on right now. If you read, by the time you read our story in the newsletter, there's going to be several more updates that are posted that are developing with this story.
Wow.
Breaking news.
Okay. It just breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. And the fact that for a lot of people, this is no surprise. This is nothing. I mean, it's just another day in Black news.
Right.
And the fact that these cops are still walking around.
They are.
I'm thinking about the 5 in Memphis, who other people had reported them and wanted something done about them, and they were allowed to keep their jobs as a part of the Scorpion Squad or whatever they called themselves. And unfortunately, because no one did anything about them, they took a report and put it in their file, maybe, they were able to live and continue to work. And unfortunately, Tyree Nichols was not. These cops need to be taken down and taken to court and have these charges filed against them in the highest possible levy of charges that they can make should be brought against these men.
And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, who polices the police?
The police, right. Right.
Who can we
That's the
have?
question.
What kind of agency can we have that is actually there to make sure police don't conduct their own investigations, interrogations, or what have you, because we're seeing this too often across the board, across several different policing agencies within police academies, what have you,
Right.
within police stations, precincts, all of them, like how we're seeing the Scorpion unit, how we've seen in the past in Atlanta with the Red Dog unit.
And in
Who's with these
Mississippi,
people?
we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what they're called, but they exist. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that these people still have jobs is the biggest crime, along with what they did to these people, to these men.
Shot him in the face. I can't believe that's the part that just really just.
My God, there, but for the grace of God. Um, One other article that we have in the Monday issue, it's Ministry Monday, and our friend Willie Mae McIver this week talks about the calling on your life and what it means to have a spiritual calling in your life, and to have that personal relationship with God through the faith of Jesus Christ. And all after that, calling is an occupational or way of life that we believe comes from God, and finding your calling, if you will, in reading your Bible. And you know, she brings in scripture and things like that, but does a really great job. I also want to bring to people's attention our first story, which had a great effect on me, and I was surprised, you know, how affected I was in just writing the story about Jimmy Carter and him refusing any extension of life methods. He is choosing to go home, away from the hospital, to enter home hospice. He is now there in his home in or around Plains, Georgia, and you know that he has the absolute best in medical care. The 98-year-old former president has had a number of health challenges, including liver cancer, which metastasized and moved to his brain. He declared that he was cured, that he had done the necessary business of medication, a trial medicine, as well as radiation, and and like other people with brain cancer, he survived. This was back in 2015, so we're talking 8 years ago. And Jimmy Carter is a miracle man, and a man of great faith, and one who really, and Coy, you're too young, but really had one of the most disastrous presidencies ever. Uh, from the outside looking in, and people don't recognize the good that he did in terms of the Middle East accords, and bringing peace between Egypt and Israel, and bringing Black people into his cabinet, including the great ambassador. And now I'm losing, but the 40 something years since he left the presidency have been the most productive, in which he has put Habitat for Humanity on the map, and his efforts, he and his wife as a partnership have really worked not only to build homes for people in this country, but also to take their work to countries around the world and help people with horrific diseases, as well as to encourage people to and help them fight for democracy, and to help people vote, and to create their own kind of political dynasties, if you will. So he's just an incredible man. He doesn't get the credit for things that he did in the process of those 4 short years. He came in the wake of Richard Nixon and all of Watergate, and beat Gerald Ford, and then was absolutely slaughtered by Ronald Reagan in 1980. And so much so that even within his own party, he wasn't given the support that he thought that he deserved. And that's when Teddy Kennedy was going to run against him. And that's virtually unheard of, for people to run against a sitting president who is going to run again. So it was a crazy time, but he's lived a great life, and he's risen above all of this, and has a great legacy that he'll leave. to his family, to his children and grandchildren. And his grandson tweeted out that, he was just there with his grandparents visiting them, and the home is just full of love and family. And I think that's how he wants to be remembered, and not for his crazy family, his brother Billy, and all of the other craziness that went on, but for the good. And I think that this is a man who will just do a nice little stroll into the gates of heaven when that time comes. So thank you, Mr. President Jimmy Carter, and I hope that you will take a look at that story, as well as what's going on in Ohio. We've run out of time in my going on about Jimmy Carter, but please take a look at the horrific situation in East Palestine, Ohio, which is just on the Ohio Pennsylvania border. All right, okay. I know Yolanda says I got more words, but I promise you we will keep this moving. We do have a very special guest. And I do want to talk about what's really going on. And it's CIAA time. And we have a guest to talk about what is the CIAA and what we can expect. Julius Grant III is our guest, and he is the VP of College Sponsorship and Marketing of the CIAA. And we've been talking about the CIAA, one of the sports conferences there. And Julius Grant, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. So, well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Coy is not a CIAA person. She is a SWAC woman. You are a CIAA?
I am.
Okay. All right. I thought you were a SWAC woman.
Not the tournaments.
Oh, okay.
I definitely love going to the CIAA. It was a great turnout when it was in North Carolina. In fact, I used to look forward to going to it every other year. It's great.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So, Julius Grant, tell us, what is the CIAA and who is involved? I know there are 12 teams. What are the teams?
Yes. So the CIAA is a Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association. It is the oldest HBCU conference in the country, founded in 1912, just a couple of years prior to my Phi Beta Sigmas, Blue Phi, So we have 12 member institutions, reaching all the way down as low as Orangeburg, South Carolina, with Claflin. We have 8 schools in North Carolina. We have 2 in Virginia, 1 here in Maryland, which is Bowie State University, and then 1 outside of Philly, which is Lincoln University. HBCUs, a lot of the schools that you can think of in the bigger schools that you can think of came from the CIAA and were part. Schools like Hampton were part of the CIAA at one point in time. Morgan State was part of the CIAA. So it is a Division II conference. And we're known for track and field, football, softball, a little bit of everything, but our queen thing is the basketball tournament. Mm-hmm. Basketball tournament has been going on for a long time. This will be our second year here in Baltimore. And what a lot of people don't know is we're Division II conference, but it is the 3rd largest basketball tournament in the country. Wow. Now, when I'm saying in the country, we only go behind the ACC and the Big Ten. We have more attendance than the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, all of those other conferences out there, and that's physical attendance. That is not even including any of the ancillary events, which we do it better than no other.
Yep. I can second that.
So when I was with the Joyner Show, and we used to come and have a sky show at the CIAA for it wasn't the kickoff, because the kickoff really starts earlier in the week, but there was a gentleman there, and he was known as Mr. CIAA. Mm-hmm. And he was an older gentleman, and maybe every half hour he would parade around and change his outfits according to the school colors of those participating in the tournament. he was, a sight to see. And from head to toe, Mr. CIAA was decked out. Do we have a pretender to the throne, another person who has taken over?
I don't think anybody could ever take over, because here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is he designed those suits.
Right.
It wasn't just, oh, I picked out a Yes, he designed those suits. He was and still is phenomenal. He can't travel like he used to travel. But that was part of the CIAA. When talking about basketball tournaments, people talk about basketball play, but it's more than that. It's
a whole pageantry. It really is.
It is. It's a family reunion. Everybody comes out and everybody gets to see everybody. And it's nothing but Black love, which is an incredible thing.
So what happens? What's the kickoff? What's that event?
All right. So tonight is the kickoff. Actually, we have a tip-off dinner where all 12 men's teams, all 12 women's teams are getting awards: Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all of that. And so we have right now, there's about 750 people that are going through that award ceremony. And that's the kickoff. And it's the only time that all 12 men teams and all 12 women teams will be on site, because starting tomorrow at 10 a.m., people are going to start going home. Now, this event is special to me because our young people are decked out. They're treating this like the SB Awards. I mean, you want to talk about prom king and prom queen. They are decked out to the T. And it makes me proud to be part of this conference when I see these young people who probably 95% of the time they're wearing sweats, but they come decked out. And it's an impressive thing to see.
And so we go from the big dinner and the awards banquet tonight, and then they go to work. They
go to work starting 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Teams will be playing, and it's put up or shut up. You lose, you're gone. So it's a lot of pressure on these young kids, and that's part of why we do the tip off. It's a celebration of all of the things that they have done throughout the week.
Right.
And I know everybody talks about the parties and the events, the step shows and all of that. But guess what? We would not be here if it's not for these student athletes. And so it's great to celebrate the things that they did and making sure that they're enjoying themselves here in Baltimore.
And that's a tough job, isn't it, Coy? You played in the band at Jackson State, so that was your job. That's a tough job to participate in these events, like playing in the band, playing on a team, and being a student too. And you call them student athletes, but that's a big deal.
You gotta focus. You gotta focus. That's all I gotta say. Focus.
Here's the thing is, for a lot of student athletes, band members, cheerleaders, I group them all in the same because they work just as hard. The great thing is on the other side when it comes to the career aspect of it. As a hirer, I'm looking at somebody who just didn't go to class and work a part-time job. I'm looking for somebody who knows how to be successful, and somebody who knows how to win, somebody who knows how to lose, somebody who knows how to put in the work when nobody else is looking. So I have to back up, and I have to tell you of all of the things happening this week, because there's a lot. I'm going to start off with, of course, tonight we have the tip-off. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Wells Fargo is doing a financial literacy program for the top 4 men's teams and the top 4 women's team. It's a private thing where they're going to be sitting in there and they're going to be talking to these kids about their financial well-being beyond college, going forward from there, and just giving them the simple, hey, this is how you can be successful financially. So that's on Tuesday. We have 6 basketball games tomorrow, starting at 10, going all the way till probably 11 or 12 at night. Then on Wednesday, we have a high school education day.
Nice.
Our high school education day, right now we have 2,500 kids signed up, with another 1,500 kids in the waiting list. What we do is we do an hour-long program, and then at the end, my sponsors and then all 12 member institutions are at the back of the room. Kids can apply to our schools for free. Kids get accepted for on site, And the last time we did it, which was 2 years ago, there was $7.6 million in scholarships offered to those kids on site for just bringing their SATs or their test scores and their grades. So that is a phenomenal event that we're excited for. Then also on Wednesday, we are doing the Phi Beta Sigma Men's Empowerment Luncheon.
Of course you are.
We are. Why wouldn't we be? We're blessed enough to have the mayor from Baltimore be our keynote speaker. We are going to stream that event live. And of course, we have 6 more games going on that day. Then on Thursday, we have a career expo from 10 to 2 at the Baltimore Convention Center. It is presented by Capital One. We have over 60 companies, local, regional, and national, that will be coming out looking to hire, whether it's internships, whether it's full-time jobs. That'll be going on. We have Nationwide has a women's empowerment luncheon that they will be doing. We will be playing 2 women's games, 12 and 2, and then 2 men's games, 6 and 8. And then Capital One is hosting a diversity and inclusion forum where they're going to have some forum people get up, and the D&I people are going to kind of talk through issues and things that are going on nowadays in the D&I section. Friday.
That's Thursday. And I'm sorry, the time on that, because we're
the time on that
in
is
that.
Yeah, the time on that is 4:30. It goes from 4:30 to 7:30, and that's going to be at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum.
Oh, that's a beautiful spot too. Good for you.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
So now moving on to Friday, we have a Hall of Fame induction. In fact, Tom Joyner a couple of years ago was inducted into the CIAA Hall of Fame. So we have that in the morning, and then we start our Fan Fest. Our Fan Fest, which is presented by Nationwide, is a 2-day event. Last year in Baltimore, even with COVID and first year in Baltimore, people scared, we had over 26,000 people that attended over a 2-day period. Wow. It was the highest number that we had in the last 6 years. Baltimore came out to support. It's phenomenal. There we have our sponsors giving away free gifts. We have Nationwide, Coca-Cola, Wendy's is going to be giving away free food, free Frosties. The U.S. Army has a 50 by 100 footprint, Capital One, Wells Fargo. All of them are going to be giving away. DTLR is showing up in a big way, partnering with Jordan Brands, giving away Jordans. We have a special corner. I've teamed up with the MPHC in Baltimore. They're called Blankets Around Baltimore. They've been running it for 10 years, where the HBCUs, the Divine Nine compete against each other to see who can get the most stuff. This year, we're doing a school supply drive. So all 9 will be out there. The winner of the fraternities, Sigma, will end up getting a check for $10,000 to be able to donate to the charity of their choice. The sorority who gains the most will get a $10,000 check to be able to split it up however they want to the charities of their choice. So partnering up with the Greeks. If you know anything about HBCUs, there's a couple of things that fall in place. The bands, the cheerleaders, the athletics, and definitely the Greeks all fall into the fray. So that's going to be great. Friday night, we have our Greek step show. Last year, our Greek step show sold out an hour before. I'm expecting the Greek step show to probably sell out by Wednesday of this week.
For sure, yeah.
Yes, it is a phenomenal thing where the Sigma's Hey, I bleed blue and white.
I understand. I understand.
I have to do what I got to do. So we'll be having that event, and then also Food Lion is having an exclusive event with the president's dinner, which is a phenomenal dinner. Usually, the governor of the state comes in. The mayor here in Baltimore.
The new governor of Maryland. Hopefully, Westmore.
We're having Westmore at the Phi Beta Sigma event on Wednesday, and Westmore is going to participate a lot in this event. You know, we have, because we're so close to DC, there's a lot of government officials who come up. Last year we had Pete Buttigieg come. Mayor Pete came in and walked through the Fan Fest and enjoyed himself. So there's a lot that's going on. And then Saturday, of course, the men's and women's championship, and we have a high school step show. Now, I would be remiss if I did not talk about the parties, because of course. So I have rented out a place called Ram's Head in Baltimore. Rented it out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Thursday night, I'm having an alumni party. Friday, I'm having a day party with DJ Cool and Rare Essence. Friday
Oh,
night,
wow.
I'm having a party, and our key up there is the one and only KRS-One.
Ooh.
Saturday day party, it's Little Mo and Kid Capri.
Oh, nice.
Saturday night party, it's Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. And then
Okay.
Sunday, we're sending people off with poetry versus hip hop. So we're going to have some classic poets up there and kind of send out everybody off with a bang. So
There'll be a lot of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Flora Michelle Williams is on Facebook. She said, where can we find the agenda? Where can people get a list of all the events?
The two places that you can go to CIAAFanfest.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it's CIAAFanfest.com. That gives you all of the FanFest events and all of the parties and the step shows. Or you can go to the CIAAtournament.org, and that gives you all of the games and everything else that goes along with that.
Julius Grant, you are a font of information, and I know you got a lot more, but I'm going to ask you if you'll stick around as we talk about some other events that are going on. I know this is big, but there are other things that are happening, and we'd love to have you join Coy and myself here. All right.
Absolutely.
Julius Grant of the CIAA and his company is putting all this together, and we'll talk about that as well. Thank you so much, sir. Let us move to what's going on in the news. And many people woke up. And let me just tell you, I started to do a story today about the president going to Poland. And something told me there's something else behind this. And sure enough, the president didn't just go to Poland. He made a surprise visit to Ukraine, to the middle of the war. The country that's been in war with Russia for the last year. They're coming up on the anniversary of this. And so the 24th, I believe, is the 1-year anniversary. So the president stepped off the plane, surprise, and everybody just, the whole morning news game just went out the window because this is just unheard of, going to the middle of a war site. But he went there with a purpose to show his support, physical and symbolic support for the president of Ukraine, and to kind of, to the fella in Russia, as well as to China, who we're not on very good terms with right now, and Korea and all those that are behind Russia, showing them the support that the United States is giving to Ukraine, and we are with the underdogs there, and to also talk about some weaponry and things that they may be sending to the country. So that was a big deal, the surprise visit, and it really was a fait accompli, because to pull this off as the president of the United States, with all that entails, and having to fly under the cover of darkness and Secret Service and all of that. It was a pretty big deal. Or as he would say, it's a big deal. That is our president. Our vice president has also been out on the road as well. So it's there. He hasn't made his announcement yet, but all of these things are leading up to his announcement. And I did this, 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 and that's why I'm running for president again. Kind of a lead up to all of that. So it'll be interesting. If you did not see it last week, President Kamala Harris declared that Russia has committed war crimes against humanity by waging this war, and so that's a big deal from her standpoint, and talking about Russia's, it's not a war. They're just trying to regain their land. And this is sovereign land. And so to say that, you're going to go into Ukraine and kill and pillage and all that they have done, they are now, with the NATO nations, can be brought up on charges. So it'll be interesting to see this. I know you're a military brat, if I can use that, a military kid, Julius Grant. I'm not big on war strategy and things like that, but you having lived in Europe, I think you said, does this hold any interest to you in watching this progress over the last year or so?
I think it does. I mean, I think anything that happens in the world, one way or another, is going to affect us. And for us to kind of sit back and say, "Oh, well, this isn't our problem," eventually it would be. You know, history will remind you that World War I and World War II weren't our problems either
Right.
until they became our problems.
Problem.
And sometimes you might need to step into a situation before it comes to that extent. So yeah, what happens happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people really need to understand. Now, as African Americans, it's difficult at points in times for us to focus on what's going on in Europe when there's so much going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to make sure that we have a wide breadth of understanding of what's going on in the world.
Right.
And it
Is that
becomes
a discussion you have to have with your children, that you have with your children?
yes. So I'm an older gentleman. I have 5 children, 3 grandkids. And the conversation, it's one that we talk about all the time that others don't have to talk about. We have conversations that we shouldn't have to have. It's a shame that we have the conversations that we have. To my sons, having the conversation, and they're grown now, and I'm still having the conversation with them. It shouldn't be that way. And all the time you hear people out there, well, what can we do? What can we do? Or Julius, how can we help? And I'm like, you're part of the problem, so you make the solution. It's not up for us to make the solution all the time. And it gets exhausting.
Yeah, and that's why, I worry about Coy as our social justice contributor, because having all of these problems presented, and knowing that we can do so much, but there's a larger world, and to put it in context, and in terms of what's happening across the world, sometimes is difficult for people to understand. I'm not saying that about Coy. I'm just saying people who are looking at what's going on, and understanding that we've got it. And as Coy says, you got to focus. You got to look at what you're doing here, but you also have to keep an eye. You kind of go cross-eyed a little bit, trying to figure out what's going on in Europe as well as in our own backyards. That's a tough thing to do. So I do want to talk to you a little bit more, Julius, about your company, because this is something that our company, we have a company called Yossi Media, and our foundation is now called HBCU Bridge, and we're trying to expose young people to life after college. Tom Joyner kept them in school, and taking them out of HBCUs, and especially in media companies, and exposing them through internships, and paying internships, and mentorships, and getting that job, and a paying gig, which is often difficult, but getting some experience. And I think that what your company does, and you gave us the whole incredible expanse of events that are going on starting tonight until the wee hours of the night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. How did you get there? And tell us more about what your company does, if you could.
Okay, so Van Wagner is a company based out of New York. Our CEO and president in the early 70s was a taxi driver in New York when he started buying outdoor signage in Times Square.
Brilliant. Wow.
Now, Times Square wasn't the Times Square that we can think
Right.
of today.
Right.
By the mid-early 80s, he owned 75% of the outdoor signage in Times Square. He ended up selling that for $720 million. And the people we sold it to were not bright enough to make sure that he had a non-compete. So he went back to business the next day. So he sold the company over time. So we have several different silos. One of our silos is production. That's our biggest department. Our production company has done the last 35 Super Bowls. So if you've ever went to a Super Bowl, anything digital you see in the Super Bowl is Van Wagner. The halftime show, all of that is produced by Van Wagner. We've done the last 15 NBA drafts, NFL drafts. Any of the championships for the NCAAs, whether that's softball, the Final Four, the football championship, all of that's done by Van Wagner. Olympics, it goes on and on and on and on that they do. So they are realistically, I can always say that we have the best production team in the country, world, in the world. So that's we have an aerial division that does flyovers at beaches and big events. And then I work in the collegiate division. The collegiate division, we have over 45 schools and conferences that we do their sponsorship sales for. And so that's kind of our main focus. For me, my main focus is getting our people experience. This week, I've got 2 people who are going to be shadowing me throughout the week. Last year, I had a gentleman who, Bowie State, he shadowed me throughout the week. He's now my intern. He's working for us as an internship. 2 of my marketing coordinators have worked for the CIAA tournament in the past. One's a Johnson C. Smith grad, one's a Fayetteville State grad. It is imperative for us to get our young people in situations that they can learn. Now, I do this for most of our CIAA schools. I go in and I talk to the classes. I talk to sport management classes. And giving them, they called me the scared straight guy. What I do is I go in and I tell them the truth. I don't like, fluffing it up.
No sugarcoating, none. You just
because everybody's like, "Oh, you get to work in sports, blah blah blah." I don't watch the games. I don't get to watch the games. I'm working. So when I come home and my kids are like, "Oh, who won the game?" I'm like, I don't know. The team in red, they were happy when they were leaving out because I'm working the whole event. So, to say, oh, I want to work in sports, that's not enough. For kids of color, it is not enough. Everybody wants to work in sports.
Right.
So you have to be, and I hate saying this, but my mom said it to me, and I'm going to say it, you have to work 2 to 3 times harder.
Right.
For me to get where I am, I've had to work 2 to 3 times harder. That means me waking up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and not finishing until 6 o'clock. Everybody on my staff knows you will never outwork me. Never. You will never. And if you do, then I'm going to call a psychiatrist because realistically, you're working way too hard. But that's what it takes to be successful in sports. You do have to work extremely hard, but then also working smart and trying to balance that up some way and making sure that you keep your mental health at a good space. Black men, mental space. Black men, mental space. You have to, and I know for us Black men out there, it's the pride thing. But if you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. Because it's so important that everybody's going through it. I have finally got to the space with my college buddies and my high school buddies. When I see them, hey, I love you. How are you doing? It sounds, oh, well, that's a little weird.
That includes your Sigma brothers too.
Oh, yes, you have to check on each other, check-ins every now and then, because you never know what somebody's going through, and that call could be the difference.
Yeah. Mr. Grant, you're talking to a young woman here who works. I don't know if you heard, but I always joke that Coy is a woman of a gazillion jobs, and she works harder than any young person I know. And starting at 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning. I think she got that work ethic from her parents, especially from her dad. The second person is our executive producer. And I guarantee you that she is one that has that same work ethic that you do in terms of working harder, but also working smarter and achieving great results. So I love hearing this conversation, and I would love to see you at work. I can't wait to meet you there on site and to have this conversation. And especially as we're there, talking to young people at the job fair and getting them into the HBCU bridge, because that's really where our heart is giving them the experience and enabling them to not have to go back to their parents' house, where their mom has already developed a crafting room out of their bedroom, and so that they can get the experience with these companies and do that. So you really are preaching to a choir of women here who really appreciate what you're saying and what you're doing. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thank y'all.
Once again, if people want to get information on the CIAA events, they should go to CIAA.org.
CIAA tournament.org or
tournament.org,
CIAA
tournament. That's what we have. Yeah.
Fanfest.com. CIAA fanfest.com.
Fanfest.com. Awesome. And we also got a young high school student we're bringing with us. So hopefully she'll get a feel for all of that too.
And please make sure you introduce her to me, please.
Absolutely. I absolutely will. Thank you so much, Julius Grant. You are a delight, and you are just an incredible human being to have the conversation with today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Coy, I feel jazzed up already, Coy. And I know you are one of those people who, is one of those work harder people. So if Mr. Grant has not left, let's play this because we are going to the CIAA, as I mentioned. So we will play that commercial as well.
Join us for action-packed games as the best men and women ballers take over Baltimore for the 2023 CIAA Basketball Championships this February 21st to the 25th. Experience it all on your schedule. Buy your general admission ticket for the game of your choice and join us to create new legacies. Bring your friends, family, sorors, and frat to experience tip-offs, dunks, and nail-biting buzzer beaters all tournament long. Single session tickets available at CIAAtournament.org. Don't miss out.
Don't miss out, indeed.
Let me tell y'all, go ahead and get the tickets now. I made the
don't
mistake
wait.
of traveling to CIAA and trying to buy basketball tickets at the last minute, and they're sold out.
Don't sleep on it. I'm telling you. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit of entertainment. And this sending congratulations out to Brittany Griner. She is returning to the WNBA, signing a 1-year deal with the Phoenix Mercury. That's the team that she played with before. And signing this less than 3 months after being freed from a Russian jail, as you know. She's made very few steps outside to kind of engaged with the public. I know she was at the Martin Luther King Day's parade in Phoenix as well. And now she's back and saying that, she's ready to get back to work and play a little basketball. And the WNBA season starts in May. I might have to, I've been a Chicago Sky fan, but I think the Sky has lost all of their really good players. And I understand the startup, but Phoenix Mercury definitely on my radar. And they have not made this official, but she was drafted by the Mercury, the first overall pick in 2013 draft. She led them to a WNBA title that next year in 2014. She's an 8-time All-Star and 2-time scoring champion. And she also leads the league in blocks 8 times. She's 6'9", so not incomprehensible too. So let us, you've seen the CIAA, we're going there. Let me leave you with the daily inspiration, Yogi's Jewel. Being flexible is the companion to peace. Now, certainly, Coy, we know you're flexible. We've seen your moves. But being flexible is the companion to peace. So think about that. Thanks so much, Coy, for hanging out with us today and participating in the conversation with Mr. Grant. Thank you, Julius Grant. We look forward to meeting you in person at the CIAA when we get to town this week. And hope to meet all of you who are coming around, who are going to be in the Baltimore area. Please stop by and see us, especially at the Career Day fair at the on Thursday. So
and
thanks so much, everybody.
Students, do your homework now.
Okay.
Trust me.
Exactly. And also come wearing your colors and we will have a good time. All right. Thanks, Coy.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Aloha.